And we are live. Day 2. DWM and the suckless programs. I have no idea if I'm going to have audio or anything. First time streaming from DWM. Again, I just installed DWM yesterday. So I'm going to ask everybody in the chat, how's the audio? If the audio is working, give me a thumbs up. So, yes, in the chat already, Bob was asking about the live Sunday chat. Yes. Yeah, I had to miss the chat Sunday. My work schedule, I've been working a lot more Sundays. That's why I usually have to move them around. Sometimes I do them in the morning. Sometimes I do them in the evening. This past Sunday, I pretty much worked all day. It was just not going to be possible for me to do the Sunday chat. So I had to miss that. And I also had to miss the NFC Championship game with my New Orleans Saints. But like I said, it's probably a good thing I missed the game. I probably would have been angry. Typical Saints ending, though. It's like the franchise is cursed. You know, last year. I'll be honest, though. Last year, I thought the Saints had a better team last year than they had this year. I thought this year's team overachieved a little bit. I thought last year's team was a better team. Of course, the Minneapolis Miracle ruined that. So, sounds great. Awesome. So, I am on Manjaro with DWM. So I'm using the DWM window manager. Day 2, and I've got to say, guys, day 2 with DWM. I felt at home in DWM since the instance I installed it. Unlike i3, where i3 was very foreign and I kind of didn't like it at first. It took me a while to grow to like i3. I got it. It's been great, DWM. Even without it really being patched hardly at all or me configuring it much, I can live in DWM. It's my kind of window manager, to be honest. There's not much to it, but what it does well. Why do you shave, Luke? Okay. And by the way, I actually got a YouTube comment earlier. Somebody mentioned something about us being brothers because we're bald. Not me and Luke, but me and the YouTube commenter. I'm not bald. I have hair. I just shave, right? You guys see, there's no bald spots. I have a full head of hair. I just haven't paid for a haircut since 2003, though, because I'm cheap. So I just got tired of paying for haircuts, so I shaved my head. All right, yeah. So we've got Bob in the chat. Heath Riley. No paper bags, yeah. No paper bags this year. Yeah, Nick, Wise Man, Chris, Felipe. Good to see you. Matt, Andrew's here. Big Pod. Daniel. Yeah. Ritual. Evening. Good evening, Ritual. Ginger Kitty Project. That's an interesting name. I like the username, though. That's a good username. And Pyra. DT live streams? Wait, what? Yeah, I don't do these live streams as often as I used to. Mainly just because of scheduling conflicts. A lot of times it's usually easier for me to just pre-record something, especially like late at night. Sometimes I'd like to do a lot more of these kind of live streams. Right now it's kind of hectic. I'm going to try to do more of them, though. That's the plan. That was my plan for 2019. Try to do more of these. We'll see. I make no promises. Yeah, STS Tech. What up, DT? What up? I was wondering if you could talk about all the things you have to take care of if you are using a tiling window manager instead of a full desktop environment. As far as what you have to take care of, okay, well, we could discuss a little bit of that. Just very briefly. Let me move to my desktop here. So this is DWM. If I just move to an empty workspace here. So out of the box, many tiling window managers will not have a panel. DWM has a panel out of the box. Many will not. DWM has one. Awesome has one. Qtile has one. i3 kind of has one out of the box. You have to configure it. Xmonad doesn't have one out of the box. You have to install some other third-party panel. Herbsluft doesn't have one. I don't think BSPWM has one. So you may or may not have a panel with most Not just tiling window managers, but window managers in general. OpenBox doesn't have a panel. Fluxbox does. JWM does. PECWM doesn't. So it differs. So you may have to take care of the panel. When you install a panel, a third-party panel, you may have to configure that thing to have things like workspaces and a clock, and especially something like a sys tray if you're used to having system information, system notifications, and your network manager applet and all that somewhere on the panel. You might have to configure the panel for that if the panel supports it. If the panel doesn't support it, you may have to take care of that in some other way. Most window managers, standalone window managers, do not have compositing built in. So you have to install a third-party compositor like Compton. What is a compositor? That is the things that give you nice effects on your desktop. Things like transparency, window shadowing, that sort of thing. So you probably are going to want a compositor. Also, sometimes the compositor makes animations more smooth. So you'll need a panel, you'll need a compositor, you'll need something to draw the wallpaper. Most standalone window managers do not have a functionality built in to set wallpaper on your screen. So you'll need nitrogen or FEH. That's just a few off the top of my head. Basically, a window manager is nothing but the window manager. The window manager is the border around the window. It is what controls this window. That is the window manager. A desktop environment includes the window manager, but includes everything you need to do work on your desktop. So that includes things like a panel and a menu system and a run launcher and setting the wallpaper and all the background services that you're going to come to expect in a full desktop environment like GNOME and KDE and XFCE. Window manager, though, not going to have most of this stuff. You're going to have to go and find third-party programs to take care of this stuff for you. So that's a little bit of the difference. And again, it's not just tiling window managers, standalone floating window managers like OpenBox. Very, very minimal. OpenBox comes with nothing. It's just a window manager. You're not going to get panels or, it comes with a menu. It's a right-click menu on the desktop, but it's not been configured in any way. It's empty. Yeah, Big Pod. Yeah, missed you on Sunday. Yeah, I wish I could have been here for a Sunday chat. Yeah, had a lot of work. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, my Sundays keep getting busier and busier. When I first started the free and open chat Sunday, well, actually, I really didn't plan on doing those open chat Sundays every Sunday. I did one. I called it Free and Open Chat Sunday, and it was enjoyable. I enjoyed doing it. The folks that joined it enjoyed doing it. So I did it a second week, the next Sunday, because I happened to be off like 2 Sundays in a row. And then it just kind of became expected. We were going to do one every Sunday. So I just kind of kept it up. And I was able to do it most Sundays over the last, 4 months or so. I think I missed last week. I think I missed maybe one other Sunday for the same reason. It's just my work schedule just wouldn't allow it. Yeah, Rituals. The stream was good timing. Was aimlessly searching for something to watch on YouTube when the notification came up. Yeah, I got home from work like seriously 20 minutes before this stream started. When I sent out the notification, I had just walked in the door. Because I walked in and I was like, what am I going to do tonight? Because I'm off work a little earlier than what I thought I would be. And I was like, well, I could go to the gym, maybe get a workout in. Or, I almost never turn on my TV. I could try to find something on TV. It's like, what? I could make a video, but I didn't have anything planned, right? Because I didn't plan on being here. I was like, do I want to research some topic and then try to make some video and spend hours making a video, editing a video? It's already getting kind of late. I was like, what? Why don't I just live stream something? You guys love these live streams, and I like doing them. So, yeah, looking forward to see how DWM goes for you. Yeah, and as I was saying, DWM, for those of you that are just arriving, DWM has been really kind of a good fit for me as far as it's what I expect in a tiling window manager for the most part. There's some things, if I had my way, like if I was creating a tiling window manager from scratch, there may be some things I would do differently, but as a total package, I'm quite happy with DWM. Like out of the box, DWM, like, oh yeah, everything just kind of functions the way I kind of expect no crashes. Configuring the thing is actually not too bad. I will say DWM, you probably would not want to try DWM for a first tiling window manager. It is for more experienced users, more advanced users. They say that on the Suckless website too. I go to suckless.org here. So this is the home page, but if you go to DWM, it's a dynamic tiling window manager. Actually, it stands for dynamic window manager. So if you're wondering whether it's a dynamic or a manual tiler, it is a dynamic. And that's one of the things I like about DWM. I prefer dynamic window managers rather than manual tiling window managers. i3 was more of a manual one. Qtile, Xmonad, DWM, they're dynamic. What does that mean? Dynamic versus manual. Dynamic means there's a layout. So if I go to my desktop here, I'm going to go back to this workspace one, meaning I don't have to figure out what the layout of the windows is going to be. There's already a layout. It's pre-configured. I know the first window I opens, well, not in floating mode. The first window I open is always going to be full screen. The second window I open is always going to take up that second half of the screen. This has all been predetermined. So I don't have to figure it out on the fly like in something like i3, where I have to decide, am I going to tile that on the right, or am I going to tile it on the bottom and split it, vertically? This is already set. The next one I know is going to open on that right-hand column. The next one I know is going to keep dividing it, and so on and so on. That is the a dynamic tiler. All of this has been set. And why are these windows not closing? Okay. That's not a bug with the window manager. That is a bug with my wireless keyboard. It's wigging out a little bit. So, and of course, got the browser open here. Anyway, so dynamic versus manual. Personally, I prefer dynamic just because I'm used to it. A lot of people prefer manual. Manual would include things like i3. Herb's Luft is a manual, and you have to decide on the fly, is that next window going to appear vertically, horizontally, etc. Yeah, do you get any screen tearing? BigPod, what kind of GPU do you use? Screen tearing? What are you using, BigPod? You say you love Tint 2, but you don't use a compositor? So are you using something like OpenBox, or... You don't have to use a compositor for most window managers, especially something like tiling window managers. You're rarely dragging windows across the screen anyway. You usually just open them. They're somewhere. They never move. A compositor is optional. Most people like to have it, though. I just realized your dot files are on GitLab. I actually did push my config for DWM to GitLab yesterday, but it's like very little change from the original, so it's not much to look at yet. I haven't spent that much time trying to configure DWM. Yeah. My gym uses Windows Vista. Switch gyms. Yeah. DWM is nice and comfy, it is. Yep. And Big Potty uses OpenBox. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, you don't have any screen tearing. I never experienced screen tearing in OpenBox. Screen tearing, I experienced a lot of it in KDE, but never in OpenBox. Yeah. And Douglas, hey there, recent patron here. Yes, thank you for your patronage, sir. Really appreciate that, Douglas. Been watching your videos for a while. Moderate experienced Linux user and have learned a lot from your videos. Got the ThinkPad Carbon set up with i3 recently. Awesome. Yeah, a lot of you guys are on i3. I was surprised when I did the i3 videos, how many of you guys actually run i3. A lot of you guys just really love the hell out of i3. And you know what? It grew on me the 3 weeks, I used it. Probably, not something I would use full time, With so many other window managers out there, I'm not going to say i3 was like one of the better ones I've used. Definitely wasn't the worst, though. i3 is pretty solid. Yeah, Arthur Thing. An interesting name. I've been watching for 4 months. Huh, cool, Arthur. Yep, you use a desktop environment, says absolute blank. And of course, now that I screwed up the size of the window by changing from floating mode to tiling mode. Let's see if I can resize this to where it fits in OBS again. Hope OBS doesn't crash. We are so professional here. I bet that looked great on the live stream. All right. So, tiled layout windows are managed in a master and stacking area. So, what they're talking about here in DWM, the main tiling layout is what they call master and stack mode. So you guys see that when I open one window on one half of the screen, so a master and stack mode, get back to tiling here. So this first window is the master. It takes up the full screen if it's the only window. If I open up another window, the master is on the left. This is the master. And the stack is on the right. That is why it's called basically a master and stack. And this is the default layout in DWM. It's also the default layout, this sort of master and stack layout's the default for Xmonad. It is one of the layouts in Qtile. I think it is the default layout in Qtile as well. They call that layout the Xmonad layout. Xmonad was not the first one to use the master and stack layout. Xmonad is a very old tiling window manager, but I think DWM is a little older. Well, actually, DWM was the first to come up with that particular master and stack layout. But that's a pretty good default tiling layout. That's usually what I stick with in most tiling window managers. If they have that particular layout, if they don't have that kind of layout, I try to create one. So, master and stack. By the way, in my initial video about DWM, I mentioned that DWM had basically this tiling mode, the master and stack mode, and then the floating mode, where you open a window and it floats now. There's actually 3 modes, and I'm not sure what they are in the config. Again, I'm still very new, so I often have to open the config here and actually read the config. You zoom in here. Of course, this is Vim. This is in ST, the suckless terminal. This is my config.h file here. So you can check out the key bindings here. So I think to toggle the layouts, okay, we have T, F, and M. So mod, let me open up a second window so we see what happens. Mod T, super T, does nothing. Super F gets us to floating, and super M gets us to full screen, or monocle is why it stands, or the key binding is super M. It stands for the monocle layout, which is another name for a full screen layout. You see I have one window full screen, the other one's also full screen, that's just behind it. You could use super J and K, I think, to switch between them still. Pretty standard for most tiling window managers. So 3 layouts. Mod T gets us back to the tiling layout. Mod F to a floating layout. The floating layout doesn't change the positions of the windows, but they are now floating. If I grabbed it, I can drag it now. Mod T back to tiling, puts it back in its place. Mod M, again, gets us to monocle, etc., etc. So 3 layouts by default. I'm sure I could add others, probably patches to add others. I haven't got around to really patching the thing much, though. I gotta be honest, out of the box, it's pretty good. I've only added like 2, maybe 3 patches, I think, to DWM. I added 1 patch to ST. Haven't patched Surf or dmenu at all yet, because really I haven't played with them that much. Mostly I've been worried about getting the window manager straight more than the other programs. Alright, back to the chat for a second. Yeah, Ritual says he used to get screen tearing running OpenBox. That was on his laptop, yeah. And Big Pod, I don't really bother with transparency or such stuff. I'm not that fancy guy. Yeah, if you don't need transparency or the drop shadows behind windows and things like that, you don't really need compositing. Yeah, Carl Schneider's in the chat. Carl, you the man. Been watching since the beginning. Derek is the man. Oh, appreciate that, Carl. Yeah, Carl is not lying. He has been here from the beginning. Carl is one of the great supporters of the channel. One of the really great guys in the Linux community. You guys see Carl Schneider. He's around, and on a lot of people's live streams and comments on a lot of the videos. Creates a lot of really good artwork for a lot of open source projects. Yeah, Michael says, been thinking about switching to a tiling window manager recently, but I'm not sure where to start. I would start with Awesome Window Manager. That's a good one to start with because out of the box, it's kind of usable right away and it's not that big of a shock to the system. So Awesome Window Manager is usually the one I tell people start with that one first. How does DWM play with more than one monitor? Okay, yeah, I was actually going to discuss this. So you guys see I have 9 workspaces. They call them tags in DWM. So I have 9 tags by default. Yeah, I could change this number. I could probably change the names instead of using numbers, actually give them real names, or maybe even like Unicode characters, but I have 9 tags, 9 workspaces. On this monitor, I have 3 monitors. This is the middle of the 3 monitors. The monitor on the far left also has 9 tags. They are not the same 9 tags as these. They're numbered 1 through 9, but they function independently of these 1 through 9, which function independently on the far right monitor also has 9 workspaces, 9 tags. So that is a bit differently. So this is not how Xmonad and Qtile function. I give them 9 workspaces. Those 9 workspaces are shared by all the monitors. You only have 9 workspaces. I have 9 workspaces on each monitor, and they are not the same, you know. So if I send this to workspace, I'm on workspace 1. If I send this to workspace 2 here, I just sent that window to workspace 2. That's only workspace 2 on this monitor. Workspace 2 over here on the far left monitor is still empty. There's nothing on it. I have 2 different workspace 2s. That's not how Xmonad and Qtile and a lot of other window managers work. If I went to workspace 2 on this monitor, this window that we're currently looking at now appears on that monitor. And whatever was on that monitor switches over to the other one, if that makes sense. And it does kind of make sense. I prefer that, to be honest. The way Xmonad does multi-monitors, they get it right. That is why Xmonad, especially early on, was such a popular tiling window manager, because it doesn't matter. All this multi-monitor stuff that the tiling window managers do, it's a big deal, but it's only a big deal if you use multi-monitors. If you're on one monitor, it doesn't matter, right? You're only on one monitor. But it doesn't matter that much if you only have 2 monitors, because you're only dealing with 2 monitors, you know, and you switch from one monitor to the other. But as soon as you get 3 monitors or more, it makes a big difference. So a lot of people get used to using the Xmonad way of handling multi-monitors, or they get used to the way DWM and Awesome also does this, where each monitor has its own set of workspaces independently of the workspaces on the other monitors. Back to the chat for a second. Yeah, I forgot where I was here in the chat. Sorry, guys. I may have missed some of the chat. Yeah, are you enjoying ST as opposed to URXVT? I haven't spent that much time with ST, but it works. I like URXVT because it works. I like Xterm because it works. I like Termite because it works. ST has not been that bad. I probably am going to be fine with ST. I'm not a terminal emulator snob, though. I can usually, you give me a terminal and it kind of works, you know. But I was happy with URXVT. I was happy with Xterm. And I was happy with Termite. Termite was the terminal emulator I was using when I first started this channel. Used it for a long time, actually. And still have Termite installed on this system. I occasionally use it. I check in on it just to remember what it was like. Still a great terminal. And Douglas, been really loving the tab layout in i3. Yeah, that seemed to be what a lot of people that told me they were i3 users. You guys really like using the tab layout. I never did much with the tab layout in i3. It's not the kind of layout I typically use when I use tiling window managers. When I use tiling window managers, and again, it's just personal preference here, but what I'm typically going to do, I'm going to send this back to workspace 1 here. And what was the key binding to get back to the tiling mode? I think mod T. This is how I usually do it. If I have two windows open, one on one half, one on the other. I think most people do that even in floating window managers. Most floating window managers have a snapping function where you can snap one window to one side, snap the other one to the other side. So I'm usually in this master and stack layout. If I plan on tiling, most of the time though, like you, what programs are you using? I'm using the web browser much of the time. The web browser, I'm always going to be in a full screen layout. That's whether I'm in a tiling window manager, a floating window manager, whatever. Everybody pretty much uses their web browser full screen. That's what I'm going to do here. I mean, if I switch over to Workspace 9 here, you know, Surf, the Surf web browser, it's full screen. You know, there is a floating layout. The floating layout, most people are not going to have much use for a floating layout in a tiling window manager. I have some use for it. You guys saw me shaping the window because of the way I'm capturing things in OBS. That's part of why I might use a tiling layout. The other reason I use tiling or a floating layout, excuse me. The other thing I like floating layouts for is playing with VirtualBox. Instead of having, it doesn't make sense, especially if you start opening 2 or 3 different VMs to have them tiling, right? I don't want that. Give them to me in floating mode. So back to the chat for a second. Yeah, let's see, Nick. In Xmonad, it's the tall layout. Yep. You're talking about the master and stack layout? Is they call it the tall layout? I'd have to look at my Xmonad config actually to see. I have it. I have Xmonad on this system. I now have 6 window managers installed on this Manjaro drive here. I have i3 gaps, which I was running. Now I have DWM, but I also had Qtile. You guys remember me living in Qtile. I have Xmonad on the system, and I did play around a little bit in Xmonad here. And I installed Herbstluft just because. I haven't done much with Herbstluft, but I thought I would eventually. So I installed Herbstluft. I have 6 tiling window managers on this machine right now. Some of them kind of configured. Herbstluft, not really configured at all yet. I have a keybind to swap between tiles and tabs. Douglas, yeah. For i3, yeah. Yeah, Big Pod. I've been using OpenBox for 1 month fully now, but currently I'm doing config themes for other stuff. For example, today I made a theme for Mate. Very cool. If you want pictures, use GUI. Easy done. Are the patches starting to get old? Not yet, but I haven't. It's day 2. So, I would show you guys a little bit of the patches, but I can't really patch DWM because I'd have to restart the window manager and it would kill everything. I can't restart it in session, and you know, I actually have to log in and log back out because I haven't patched it in a way that would allow me to change DWM, reconfigure it, and then compile it again and not kill OBS, for example. So, I mean, I could show you a little bit of me changing the config, but I couldn't actually recompile it and show you the changes on camera. At least not yet. Now, we could maybe do some patches with ST or a dmenu or something like that. Matter of fact, I'm trying to think of what I did. Okay, I did patch. Let me show you one of the patches I did. Well, I won't actually show you the patch, but I will show you the effect. You guys notice ST has some transparency? That's my wallpaper, the DT wallpaper behind that. See? That is a patch for ST. ST does not support transparency out of the box. There's a patch called the Alpha patch. It was a pretty easy patch. So how that works is, let me kill the DWM config and let me zoom in here. So if I cd into the ST directory, I download the alpha patch, whatever it was called, and then you run the command. What's the command? Patch space dash P1 for patch 1. Then the less than sign, and then the name of the patch. I think it was called st-alpha. If I tab complete, will it give me anything else? No, it won't give me the rest of it. Give me an ls then. Alpha dash, I forget which one I ran. I've got 2 different alpha ones. One did not work because it was not this, didn't work with my version of ST, so I downloaded the other one. But anyway, it doesn't matter because I'm not actually going to patch it again. I was just going to show you the command. Patch space dash P1 less than, and then the name of the diff. We'll go with this one right here. I didn't spell it right. Come on. There we go. So let's just assume that's the right patch. I hit enter. It patches just fine. Restart ST. Now I have transparency. And if I open the config for ST with vim and then config.h, of course, is the name of the file. Where is the transparency here? I'm trying to figure out where. Okay, right here. The background opacity, and then this right there. You add that line, give it some figure, save it, sudo make clean install, right? So you would write this, quit it. Then the last thing to do, of course, is sudo make clean install. And even though I didn't change anything, it doesn't hurt anything to recompile ST. Close it and then restart it. And hopefully your patch will take effect. So that's the only patch I think I did in ST, the alpha one, just to get transparency. Because it was a very simple patch. There's not much to it. So all right. Back to the chat for a second. I'm sorry, guys. The chat skipped way ahead. I know I missed a ton of chat. I have no idea how many people are actually... about 78 of you guys hanging out in the chat. Yeah, I try to keep up with the chat as best I can. Here, let's see. Yeah, I just couldn't deal with software that I need to compile every... Yeah, a lot of people said that about the suckless tools. Yeah, it does. It's... I'm not going to say it's not insignificant. I mean, having to compile every time. Because think about it. Even something like ST. I open the config file, I change what I need to change, I have to exit, then I have to run sudo make clean install. Path to the name of the file if I'm not in the right directory. Every time. Every time I change anything. Most programs have a config file that doesn't require you to recompile afterwards, right? It just reads these things on the fly, you know. At least for this specific user config file. I don't know why the suckless guys don't use something like that. They could, they just choose not to. Mitchell says he loves OpenBSD. I've never used OpenBSD myself. I should check it out at some point. Is Surf working well for you? I have not been impressed with Surf. Haven't used it that much, but while DWM is like a cozy bed, I feel right at home with DWM. ST is going to be just fine. dmenu is a fantastic program. Surf, I'm going to tell you right now, Surf is going to be the real challenge here. So if I go back to... Alright, so Surf. You guys notice anything about Surf? Where is the header, the title bars, the window buttons, the forward and back button? Where is the URL bar? Where's anything on here? Again, it's very much... this thing was designed really for tiling window managers. There's nothing to it. No kind of borders, no scroll bars, nothing. So, how do you control this thing? Well, it's mostly with vim-like commands. So, I think Control H goes back. Yes, Control L goes forward. So, HJKL is usually involved in a lot of the commands. So, Control H back, Control L forward. J would normally be down. How about Control J? Control J scrolls us down. Control K scrolls us up the page. So it's all keyboard driven. If I wanted to go to a different website, I think Control G. Yeah, and now you see at the top, almost like dmenu opens. So maybe dmenu controlling this. So, and then I just go wherever I want to go. How about, I don't know, distrowatch.com. And there we go. That is distrowatch.com here in Surf. If I want to go back to the suckless page, Control H, There are no tabs. You don't have tabs in Surf. That is like the big thing. We have been so programmed with modern web browsers, this whole tab thing. You have a million tabs. Some people have, open. I don't use that many tabs, but I'll often have half a dozen tabs open. No tabbing in Surf. You don't get it. As a matter of fact, that was one of the things they told you up front, because they know this is what's really gonna tick some people off, is a simple web browser based on WebKit 2, GTK Plus, etc. Anyway, you have this quote from somebody, I guess, praising Surf. I guess they used it. Anyway, he says, quote, "I thought exactly the same before. I always had 20 plus tabs open in Firefox. Honestly, I never thought I'd enjoy using a browser with no tab support until I forced myself to use Surf for a week. I am now much less distracted and more focused when browsing the web. DWM plus Surf." So he says the fact that you don't have all these tabs open, he was more focused, got more work done. Is that going to be the case with me? I don't know. I do think a lot of people, keep tabs open for no reason, especially once you get more than a handful of tabs open at a time. I mean, do you really need all those tabs open? Most people don't. Give me just a second, guys. Had to adjust the chair there. All right. So without tab support, what are you going to do? Well, you're just going to open up, I guess, another window, right? So if I right click back and reloader there, so I guess the only thing I could do is Surf and, I don't know, duck go. So instead of tabs, you just open up another instance. I must have not typed the domain name right, but that's beside the point. So you're just going to keep opening up other instances of Surf, maybe do them in monocle mode, the full screen mode, and have them stack on each other. And then you cycle through them with, Control J and K. I'll probably get used to it eventually, but it is strange at first. The fact that there is no tabs is really, really foreign. Not going to lie. In a lot of ways, Surf has less functionality than most of the terminal-based web browsers I'm used to, like Lynx. Lynx, out of the box, is so much more than Surf. Surf doesn't have bookmarks. Lynx does in the terminal. I can add a bookmark in Lynx. I have, this. Now, there is a patch for Surf adding bookmarks. I haven't gotten around to it. I haven't played with Surf that much. Again, I've been focused on DWM the first couple of days, because that's the big thing to get straight, is the window manager, because I have other web browsers I can use. Firefox is still installed on the system. I didn't uninstall it. Of course, I have Lynx in the browser, or in the terminal if I want to use it. So I'm trying to avoid that. I don't want to use Lynx just to avoid using Surf. I mean, the whole point of this is to use Surf, so I'm going to try to use Surf. Make myself use it. And if there's, something that's really bugging the hell out of me with it, I'll patch it. Yeah, so far with ST and the alpha patch, I can only get image previews in Ranger, in i3 and Awesome. BSPWM, Xmodad, and Qtile, no. That is interesting. So it depends on the window manager you're in. Huh. You know what? Let me try it. Since you brought it up, since I'm already here. Let me open up a terminal. This, of course, is ST. Ranger is installed on the system. Of course, nowadays I've been using VIFM, but I still have Ranger installed. And the W3M image previews do not work in ST in DWM. Okay, not a big deal. VIFM, I can go ahead and tell you right now. I already know because I use VIFM all the time. There are no image previews, but it's also using the W3M image previews. So neither one of those is going to work. But is it just the terminal that's the problem, or would a different terminal have the image previews. Let's see. Termite, Ranger. I know the image previews were working in Ranger in i3. So, it may be the window manager. There may be something with the window manager. I know they were working in URXVT as well. Ranger. They work in URXVT on DWM. Alright. And of course the last one, while we're at it, Xterm. Xterm, I know they were working in VIFM. And they are working. The font size is not correct. I gotta adjust the fonts, but they work. So, of the 4 terminal emulators I used, 2 of them, the image previews worked, 2 of them it didn't. And I know I've seen those Ranger previews work before on those other terminals. I don't know why they're not working today. But those W3M image previews in Ranger and VIFM and in W3M itself, they're problematic. It's always been kind of buggy. That's why I usually don't even bother with them. You know, for years, you know, if I have to use something like Ranger or now VIFM, I usually wouldn't even bother trying to turn on the image previews because it may work, it may not. Most of the time I don't need to see the image previews anyway. For example, if I really wanted to see the image previews, I'll open up VIFM and I'm in my image directory. You know, I could just open my actual image preview program here. This is IMV, so simple command. It's not really a command line utility, but IMV, pretty straightforward. And that's how I would view them in its own separate window using IMV or whatever program you want to use. The preview is kind of fancy. It's nice to have, I won't lie, but it's not something you need. Yeah, 78 watching, only 22 likes. Yeah, give me a thumbs up. This is hard work. You guys realize how much hard work this is sitting in front of a computer with a beer? Blue Moon, Belgian White today. Not something I normally drink, but hadn't had it in a while. It's okay beer. Not my favorite. Feel like something different though. I've had too many Coronas and Modelo's lately. You know, I love those. Alright, I missed a ton of chat. Surf seems a bit like Qt Browser without the tabs. Yeah, Qt Browser, of course, has a lot of Vim key commands. Surf is not as functional as Qt Browser. I haven't played around with Qt Browser much, but Surf has nothing to it at all. I'm going to have to patch it, I think, a lot. Let's see, more than 5 tabs, I get anxiety, unless I am crazy troubleshooting something. I don't care for a ton of tabs. Yeah, I usually don't have a lot of tabs open. Believe it or not, usually the only time I have tabs open when I do the Thursday show, taking into account, because I know I'm going to cover a few different topics, I'll have a lot of tabs open in my browser because I know I'm going to, you know, switch back and forth between various reference, you know, news articles and such. It makes sense to have those tabs open for them, but generally I rarely have more than 2 or 3 tabs open in a browser. Michael, I'll stick to Firefox. Thank you. I don't blame you. I might stick to Firefox too, but I'm gonna give Surf a shot. How much of this feels like lazy programmers to you, and how much of it is philosophy? It's about 90% philosophy. You know, you can't say it's no percent laziness, so I'll give it 10%, but it really is mostly philosophy why they do this. Does Surf do buffers like Vim? I am not sure. Again, I've barely played with Surf. I'm not sure. Linux is always one of the first things I install when I get a new computer. It's usually one of the first things I check to see if it's installed. On a lot of Linux distros, believe it or not, you'll find links installed on some of them. Especially like the more minimal distros. Don't be surprised if you go to install something like Arch or Gentoo or various other kind of Linux enthusiast sort of distros. They already have links on it. Why? Because you may need it to get it installed. So that's why they put it there. Because their command line installs, you need to go to their wiki to read something, right? How are you going to do that without a graphical environment? You're going to use links. So either that or you're going to hopefully have a smartphone available so you can pull up the Arch wiki and read it from your smartphone. Yeah, don't people get lost with so many tabs? I rarely have more than 5 or 6 open. I would think, but it's crazy how many tabs. Some people, I see screenshots of people with like 50 tabs open, and it blows my mind. Because their computer has got to be just holding on for dear life. You know, the CPU and the RAM usage from that many tabs. So Derek, Nick, he says, Derek, the image previews work without the alpha patch. Only URXVT or Xterm work everywhere. So ST without the alpha patch, they were working in Ranger. Okay. Now they're not working? Okay. I was pretty sure I'd seen Ranger image previews in ST before. Well, I'm glad I wasn't imagining that. So should I get rid of the alpha patch to get the previews back in Ranger? No, because I've switched to VIFM anyway. And the image previews are not going to work in ST and VIFM. With or without alpha. So I already know that. I cannot get VIFM to display those image previews correctly. I don't know why. Yeah, the likes are just lagging. Yeah, YouTube needs to sudo update likes. DT, hope you're having a better day than me. I don't know. It wasn't a great day for me, I gotta be honest. But it sounds like you had a bit of a worse day. You know, some things I do need to discuss about patching DWM. Of course, we're not going to actually patch anything because, again, I can't do it live streaming because it would kill OBS. It'd kill the stream. But let's discuss some of what I did today. So, if I open a file manager, I'll open up VIFM since it's hotkeyed here. I'm going to go to my home directory. And trying to think of where I put this stuff. Okay. I think I put it in a folder I created called DWM right here. I still get the previews on. That's not where I put it. What am I looking for here? No, I'm pretty sure that's where I put what I'm looking for. There it is. So I created a folder called .dwm in the home directory. Why? It's because I installed a patch. If I go back to the web browser, what was that? suckless.org. And I did a patch for DWM, patches, and I did a patch called auto start. What this does is now DWM, as long as you create this .dwm directory and place a file in it called autostart.sh, you can now have an auto start shell script. That is all that is. So if I open it in Vim, that is my auto start. It launches Compton, so I have a compositor. It sets the wallpaper with nitrogen. It launches the URXVT D daemon, because I've been using URXVT as my terminal. Now I'm using ST. But anyway, I still got the auto start launching that daemon. I probably should comment that line out. But then you notice I've got this here. These last 4 lines, 6 through 9. While true, do, xset root, name, and then some date stuff. What does this do? It puts the date at the top of the window. By default, you do not have a clock or any kind of date on this status bar. You do not have that functionality built in. But if you're using an auto start file, you can add this little bit of a shell script here. It uses the program xset root. On Manjaro, that program was not installed. I had to sudo pacman -S xorg-xset root is the name of the package. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to search that, but I'm pretty sure that's the name of the package. Once you install that package, this script will place that clock in your bar. basically it puts this, well, you see the format, xset root dash name. Name is the title of the window, the name of the window, and then out to the side of it, date in this format. I hope that makes sense. That's kind of complicated just to get date in the status bar, right? Again, that's why DWM, again, it's probably not something I would recommend to brand new users at all. Just putting time on your desktop is kind of complicated, for especially if you're brand new to things like bash scripting. So, and some of this information is just all over the place. You know, I do a quick Google search for this. You get different approaches to how to add time to your status bar. Some people do it one way, some people do it another way, use different programs, different scripting options. Some people use this auto start method that I'm doing. Some of them are putting it in a xinit RC file, which I don't use the xinit RC file to do anything on my system, but a lot of documentation assumes you're using that file. I don't use that file. So I had to come up with something else. Another option, let me discuss this because this is interesting. Let me quit this and I'll get out of VIFM. Now, I did not have to apply that auto start patch because you know what? I could have went about that auto start shell script completely differently. Because I don't use xinit RC to launch DWM or anything, I use LightDM as a login manager. Most people do probably, especially if you're running multiple window managers or desktop environments, you're probably using the LightDM login manager. So it creates, when you install DWM, it creates a DWM session on your system. And if I do a quick locate dwm.desktop, user share x sessions DWM desktop, this here. I probably should zoom in for you guys so you can see that. That particular dwm.desktop file, if I wanted to, let me just open it up in Vim so we can take a look at it. This is the dwm.desktop file. So when you go to LightDM, there's an entry for DWM for you to log in. What does it do? It executes this command, execute DWM. It launches the DWM binary. I don't have to do that though. I could, if I wanted to, I don't know, change word here. So CW, that's a read-only file because we don't have sudo privileges, but I'm not actually going to change this. But instead of execute DWM, I could /home/dt/DWM. I could still create that directory, even though if I didn't have that auto start patch, and I could still create some kind of auto start file, you know, or whatever, and that would be what executes when you launch DWM. The only thing I would need to do is make sure at the end of that auto start file to put execute DWM, right? So let me quit this. Oh, yeah, I definitely don't want to save that. I know that was complicated. For you guys that are not familiar with how login managers work or those .desktop files, you're like, what in the hell was that? But all you do, open up that .desktop file. It's going to say execute DWM. Just change DWM to the location of whatever bash script you want to write and have it launch DWM with all the extra goodies, the clock at the top and nitrogen and Compton and did I mention DWM probably not a good first tiling window manager? Alan Rocco, you have 34 tabs now. That's a lot. Big Pod normally has 20 to 30 tabs. 50 plus when he's actually working. There's no way with 50 plus tabs you can even know what's going on in 45 of those tabs. You just have tabs open to have them open, because there's no way you even know what's going on most of those tabs. Yeah, JP Silva, maybe check Uberzug, whatever, to add better previews. Yeah, I've checked out the GitHub page for that. Looks like an interesting solution to the image preview problem with things like Ranger and VIFM. Just quickly browsing the GitHub page, looks kind of complicated. I'm not exactly sure how to use that thing. Again, I haven't dug into it that deeply though, because quite frankly, I was okay with the W3M images in VIFM. They work in URXVT. Now they don't in ST. But yeah, I might check out some Uberzug, however you pronounce that word. See if I can get that thing working. Let's see. I missed a lot of chat. Sorry, guys. Yeah, MPV is awesome. I guess somebody needed a video player. Sudo pacman-s MPV. Yep. MPV is the way to go. A lot of people love MPV. Carl agreed regarding MPV. MPV gets a lot of love. DT, I use icons. Okay. I'm not sure what that's for, but okay. Icons on what? In the file manager, on the desktop? Icons in your right-click open box menu? I know you were using open box. Yeah, who needs the image previews anyway? You really don't, because if you really want to see what that file is, you can just open it, right? It's not like there's no way to see the thing. So again, if I just open VIFM, why not? There we go. So if I just wanted to scroll down and I want to see what this image is, yeah, just open it, right? Still learning some of the key bindings for some of this stuff too. I really haven't. It's weird because I installed DWM, and this will be the second time I've kind of recorded me using DWM. I've used DWM maybe a grand total 2 hours as far as actually being here and actually tinkering with the config file a little bit. I haven't spent that much time with it. So yeah, BigPod, you meant in the browser to know what the tabs do? Okay, I can see how the icons would give you a clue as to what's going on. One thing, let me open up that DWM config one more time. Let's scroll in. The big thing I did is just my typical programs that I use. This is the same key bindings I was using in Qtile, the same key bindings I used in Xmonad, the same key bindings I used in i3. Super plus 1 through 9 on the keypad opens these programs. Super Shift 1 through 9 on the keypad opens these programs. Super Control 1 through 9 on the keypad opens these programs. So these 27 programs basically. So it's the exact same key bindings, exact same programs for those key bindings. So it's not that foreign, right? Right away I know what most of my key bindings for the programs launching anyway. I just don't know some of the key bindings, how to control the window manager itself just yet. I'm still kind of working on that. For example, I know mod enter, of course, opens another terminal, but mod and H and L, I believe, adjusts the width of the window. Yeah, so that was mod L, mod H goes the other direction. So that's how that works. Of course, mod C closes a window. If I wanted to send a window to another workspace, super shift the number of that workspace. So I'm on 9, super shift 8 sends it to workspace 8. Super 8 takes me to workspace 8. What if I wanted to send it to a different monitor? Super shift comma would send it to the left monitor. It's now on the left monitor. If I highlight it on that left-hand monitor and super shift period, I send it back to this monitor. So again, the 9 workspaces are independent of each other on their monitors, but you can send a program to the other monitor, whatever workspace it happens to be on that other monitor. That might be kind of confusing since you can't actually see my 3 monitors. I'm only recording 1. Hope that makes sense to you guys. I know for you guys that have used tiling window managers, it probably does. If you're not familiar with how tiling window managers work, that might have been confusing. Let's see. Michael, really like that color scheme. You talking about my color scheme? I'm not, I want to say the color scheme I'm using is Ocean Dark. Just Google it, Ocean Dark, for a terminal color scheme. I think I modified it slightly, but very slightly. If you want my X resources with that color scheme, if you're using URXVT or Xterm, get it from my GitLab page. Let's see. Yeah, tiling window managers are autistic. Use XFCE or OpenBox. I'm with you on OpenBox. XFCE, I can take it or leave it. But I don't know. Tiling window managers are pretty nice. OpenBox is great too, though. Let's see. I was wondering if I was the only one that watched. Who are you guys watching now? Chris Titus Tech, it looks like. Or some folks have mentioned Luke Smith. Well, both great channels. Luke is an interesting character. Gotta give that guy credit. Bit of a strange fellow. Best beer for bash scripting? That's an interesting question. I would ask, what is the weather like? I like IPAs in the winter. If it's cold, you know, I want something that'll warm you up a little bit, right? Where I'm at, you know, in Louisiana, very hot in the summer. I want something quite a bit lighter. Would not want to drink an IPA on a day where it's, you know, 105 degrees outside and, you know, 100% humidity. So, let's see. Yeah, the Vega 64, somebody mentioned that. And those things are expensive. The Vega 64, I've looked at the Vega 56 and the Vega 64 cards, and it's just crazy how much money those things go for. When some of the lesser priced NVIDIA cards outperform those AMD cards, I would love to go to AMD just because, you know, the driver support. It's open source, it's all kind of baked into the kernel now. Less headaches than having to deal with the proprietary NVIDIA drivers, but I'm not going to pay quite a bit more for an inferior card, to be honest. At least right now. They're catching up, though. I imagine I'm eventually going to get on the AMD bandwagon and buy an AMD graphics card. Because having to fool with things like NVENC, the NVENC encoder to stream on OBS, you know, there's a lot of distros that ship OBS and FFmpeg without NVENC support. They compiled that binary with no NVENC support. That's frustrating because now, how am I going to get FFmpeg with NVENC on something like Ubuntu? I've got to compile FFmpeg myself with NVENC support. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to find a distro that has NVENC. Arch, you know, and all the Arch-based distros. So, if I was on an AMD card, though, it wouldn't matter, so. And Pure Essence. Oh, you live in Louisiana. What part? I am in Monroe. My chat is running slow. I would agree. The chat is running very slow. This is kind of a bug with YouTube chat sometimes. I use Firefox, by the way, to stream the chat. That's not Surf. That's Firefox. Firefox is always buggy in this YouTube's chat. Especially when it gets going, it's like I get a lot of chat and then it freezes. Nothing will happen for 30 seconds and then I'll have like 200 comments appear all at once. I have no idea where I was at the chat. I'll never find my spot again. That's why I'm often apologizing to you guys about the chat jumped ahead, not, you know, because I have no idea where I was. I can't find my spot anymore. You guys probably don't see how it jumps ahead, at least on the stream. I think it's pretty smooth, you know, watching it on YouTube. But it really acts crazy in the browser itself that I'm viewing. Yeah, Carl says the Vega outperforms in compute workloads. 2020 will be huge for Radeon. Mark my words. We'll see. Yeah, Terminal Linux says I have a GTX 1080 Ti. Tried to get the drivers to work properly on Manjaro, but no success. You had a problem with the 1080 on Manjaro? I will say Manjaro does the proprietary NVIDIA drivers a little differently than like mainline Arch. There is a page though for Manjaro NVIDIA drivers, because I know I've recommended this page before to folks that have asked me about it. You may have seen it. Manjaro has their own wiki. But a lot of times, I know I often just go to the Arch wiki for all Arch-based distros, but in this instance about installing the proprietary graphics cards on Manjaro, you probably actually want to read the Manjaro page for it. They have a pretty good page here. Because they have their own like program to install it called MHWD, Manjaro Hardware Detection Utility. Use it. Don't try to install it. However, the Arch wiki tells you to install it. So I think you'll get it working if you read that page. Yeah, Chris, is there a difference between a desktop environment and a window manager? Yeah, we actually covered that very early on in the stream. Somebody asked a similar question. Yeah, a window manager is simply, if I go back to my desktop here, let's go to floating mode again. What a window manager is, it is what draws the window on your screen. So you see this purple border around this window? That is the window manager. If you wanted a visual representation, it is what is putting this window on the screen. It is what puts the window in its place. If I was in tiling mode, for example, it would be what, you know, put this window here and that window there. That is the window manager. You always have one in a graphical desktop environment, or, you know, so GNOME has a window manager, and KDE has a window manager, XFCE have a window manager. So every desktop environment has a window manager. But when we talk about window managers, we're talking about just a window manager, right? Where a desktop environment has the window manager, but it also includes things like the panel, the menu system, all the background services that are running and attached to your window manager. For example, in GNOME, there's something that sets the wallpaper on your GNOME desktop. That's part of the desktop environment. That's all tied into the window manager. You know, it's all kind of one big package. Where a window manager is just the thing that puts the window on the screen. It's what draws that window on the screen. That is it. So a window manager, most of these minimal window managers, you have to install a panel. You have to install some kind of run launcher or command launcher like Rofi or dmenu or something to actually launch programs. You have to, install a systray on a panel. You have to install a program to manage wallpapers, to set the wallpaper on your screen. You have to install, other various programs and, services. Things you take for granted on GNOME and KDE and XFCE. You don't take those things for granted on these minimal window managers, because right away you're going to have to do some extra work. But that's the point. Nothing's running here that I don't know about, because I had to install everything, right? Maybe not everything. I mean, this is a Manjaro install. This was originally a Manjaro i3 install, but Manjaro i3 is still pretty minimal. They don't install a million packages. I know most everything that's installed on this machine, because most of it I installed myself, or I at least knew what it was installing when it installed. So there's nothing like running in the background. No weird daemons or background services that I don't know about. Where on things like the big desktop environments like GNOME and Plasma, you probably don't know what half the stuff that's going on in the background of your system is doing. Of course, they have all that stuff, there for a reason. Because they kind of baby you along, especially newer users. Just going window manager only is a little more advanced. This is for those people that really want to tinker and really tailor make their desktop to their own particular liking. Back to the chat. PT, I have had problems with that, but I have forum pissed with solution that works. Forum post with a solution that works. Okay, Oh, with the Manjaro NVIDIA drivers, yeah. Now, he's not the only one that's had problems with the NVIDIA drivers on any distro, but Manjaro, because I use Manjaro, I get a lot of people asking me, hey, how'd you get the NVIDIA drivers on Manjaro? I usually just point them to that wiki page, because most of them, like 95% of them, haven't even read that wiki page. That's a good place to start. Usually, if you just follow the instructions on that wiki page. And then after you install the drivers, by the way, reboot. So that's one thing. Yeah, just because you installed the proprietary drivers don't mean they're working right away, right? You do have to reboot the machine. So yeah, let's see. I'm so happy with i3 Window Manager now. Maybe I'll try another in the future. If you're happy with i3, no need to switch to something else. I usually, if something's working, I'll stick with it. I hop around a lot, of course, for this channel, But yeah, if you think i3 is fantastic, yeah, just keep on. But if you want to try something, absolutely. Move on to something else. If you like i3, if you want something similar in how it functions to i3, I don't know, you might check out something like Herbst Luft, because it's another kind of manual tiler. Awesome is very popular. A lot of people like the Awesome Window Manager. You guys know I love Qtile. I have some videos on Qtile. That might be one to check out. Xmonad, I'd avoid. Xmonad's a little tough. DWM, I'd definitely avoid too until you know a little more. Yeah, I've run Arch for a while. I've never tried Manjaro. Yeah, if you're running Arch, there's no reason to try Manjaro. It's basically Arch. Just a quicker install. But Manjaro, most of their main editions are going to give you full desktop environments. If you don't want a full desktop environment and you want to tailor build the system to your exact specifications, an Arch install is what you want to do. Although, if you really want a quick install, but kind of a minimal install, Manjaro does offer open box editions, i3 editions. So I'd look into those. Yeah, QWERTY, your channel is insightful. Thank you for your time and researching stuff and making meaningful content. I appreciate that. Meaningful content. Oh, I'm glad you find some of this stuff useful. Sometimes I make these videos and do these things like DWM. I wonder how many people are actually going to find this valuable at all. But it's good to hear some people are interested in this stuff. Does DWM work for you in a satisfactory manner? Yeah, been great so far. Just because of the way it works as I expect most tiling window managers to work. As far as it's a dynamic tiler, we discussed this earlier. A dynamic tiler meaning there's a pre-built layout. I know exactly where each window is going to keep appearing on the screen because this layout's already been predetermined. Where a manual tiler like i3 or Herbst Luft, I open the first window, it opens full screen, but in a manual tiler like an i3 or Herbst Luft, I have to decide where the next window is going to be. They're going to tile vertically, they're going to tile horizontally, and then open that window. And then the next window I have to decide where that one's going to be. And some people like that. I don't. I like having pre-built layouts that they're already predetermined for me. The way it does the workspaces is not my favorite, but I don't hate it. So these 9 tags, they call them, workspaces. I have 3 monitors. Each monitor has 9 tags. Their own set of 9 tags. So really I have 27 tags, 1 through 9 on each monitor. They operate independently. That's a little different than what I'm used to, but I don't hate it. And I can get used to that pretty quick. I've used Awesome Window Manager in the past. Awesome does the same thing, so I'm kind of used to how that works. Yeah. Steven Anderson's Manjaro fan. Yep, Manjaro's great. Arch Labs gives you options as well. Arch Labs is fantastic. I've reviewed Arch Labs a couple of times on the channel. They make a great open box distro. They also do a pretty good BSPWM because I took a look at that on the channel a while back. you guys like tiling window managers, but you're not sure how to configure them, check out Arco Linux. Arco Linux now does i3, BSPWM, Awesome, and Xmonad. So they have 4 tiling window manager versions that I know of. Maybe there's more. I know Eric Dubois had mentioned in the past, because I do so many Qtile videos, that they thought about maybe doing something with Qtile at some point. I would love for them to do that. I don't know if they'll ever do anything with DWM. DWM is such a strange beast because all the compiling and patching. It would be strange for them, because they would have to basically have their own patched version of DWM with all their functionality, pre-build that binary. That would be kind of hard to have DWM on a distro actually configured for you. So. Would be an interesting project, though. Somebody just start maintaining their own custom version of DWM already patched with, you know, the clock and extra layouts and transparency, and just keep that pre-built binary somewhere on GitHub or GitLab, so those of us that don't want to fool with patching can just pull down the DWM that's got all the patches. I know that's against the suckless philosophy because it's bloated, but Cubic, I feel like Xmonad would also give you 10 workspaces per monitor. It doesn't. Xmonad, you create 10 workspaces, you have 10 workspaces, no matter how many monitors. I have 3 monitors, and I create 10 workspaces, right? The first monitor is on workspace 1, second monitor is on workspace 2, the third monitor is on workspace 3, 4 through 10 are not being used. Now, if I switch monitor 1 from 1 to workspace 4, it goes to 4, 1 goes away. Now I'm on 4, 2, and 3. Does it make sense? But you always only have 10 workspaces to deal with. Where DWM and Awesome, I have monitor 1 on workspace 1 of 9 on that monitor. I have monitor 2 on workspace 1 of 9 on that monitor. Monitor 3, workspace 1 of 9 on that monitor. 9 independent of each other. I prefer the way Xmonad does it. But I can handle this, though. It's not horrible. Which window manager makes me most look like a hacker? No window manager is going to make you look like a hacker. It's the terminal that's going to make you look like a hacker. If you haven't looked at Edex UI, you should take a look at Edex. You know what? Since I made that video on Edex, I don't think I've ever launched it since I made that video about, 3-4 weeks ago. Let me launch Edex for those of you that are not familiar with Edex. Is it still on here? Yeah, I didn't uninstall it. Just install this. This is my new terminal, Edex UI. Welcome back, DT. It even has a touchscreen keyboard if I had a touchscreen monitor. If that doesn't say hacker, I don't know what does. Yeah, Nick says, DT, it's me that developed Arco Linux Awesome and Xmonad for Arco Linux. Ah, so you're that Nick. I've heard a lot about you, Nick. I appreciate those Awesome and Xmonad versions of Arco Linux, because those are awesome. Yeah, I'm one of the team members. Ah, cool. Qtile and DWM are in the pipelines. Very cool. Qtile would be pretty straightforward. DWM, I don't know. That might take some work. Qtile probably. If you've already done Awesome and Xmonad and BSPWM, Qtile's actually simpler than probably all of those to get something up and working pretty quick. It's all in Python, so that helps. Now, getting that itch for Super Tux Kart, says Steven. I wouldn't mind playing a little Super Tux later myself. Yeah, Nick says, I didn't develop Arco Linux i3, as Eric Dubois had that already before I joined the team. Cool. Yeah, Lamer says, I prefer how XFCE works. XFCE isn't horrible. I don't dislike XFCE. It's not bad. Yeah, DT, is it possible to swap workspaces between monitors on DWM? Not that I know of. So, in things like Xmonad and Qtile, because, you have 10 workspaces, and you only have 10 workspaces. When you swap from workspace 1 to workspace 5, they just swap places. 5 was on this monitor, 1's on this monitor, they just swap. That's how you normally expect these things to work. i3 doesn't work that way. DWM is not going to work that way either. I can move programs to different monitors, but I can't move that workspace to the other monitor because, again, they have their own set of workspaces on that monitor, right? I can't take the workspace that's workspace 1 on this monitor with all the programs and move it to this monitor because it already has its own workspace 1, if that makes sense. Let's see. DT, have you tried Oberrun yet? It would be quite interesting to see a System D-less arch. There's already a couple of System D-less arches out there. I've taken a look at Artix. Artix with Runit as its init system. I liked it. It wasn't bad. Let's see. Heath, right now I'm fighting FreeBSD and C720 core booted Chromebook to get them to cooperate. Good luck, man. Can't help you with FreeBSD. Can't help you with a Chromebook either. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Big Pod. I use Edex UI. Q1 Fiend. Yeah, that's some elite hacker skills. Yes, it is. What's my preferred shell? I use Bash. Why do I use Bash? Because it's on every system anyway, so why not use it? You won't find a Linux distro that Bash isn't there, and about 95% of them have it as the default shell. The other 5% have ZSH as the default shell. But even those that have ZSH as the default shell still have Bash on the system anyway, so I just use Bash. ZSH is not bad though, I don't hate ZSH. Fish I haven't tried. Played around a little bit with Conch, which is XONSH. When I say I've played around with it, I mean just barely played around with it. It's interesting, though, for those of you that are not familiar with that particular shell, XONSH, Google it. Or actually, YouTube it. There's a great presentation on how to use that particular shell at some Python convention or something. A guy gave a little presentation of it because Conch uses Python. As it actually takes Python commands, in the shell. Really neat. So, because sometimes, especially with scripting, some things are just easier to do with Python than doing with Bash scripting. iCubic says he's never played Super Tux. Is it good? It's great. It's the best game ever. How have you never played Super Tux, Cart? Not every Electron app is made the same. Well, that's true, but they're all still slow. I don't care. They're not all made the same way, but I've never seen an Electron app that wasn't just slow as a dog. Atom is the worst. Yeah. Is it me, or is there a 5-millisecond delay between the sound and the video? It's annoying. Is there a is it out of sync? Out of sync? It could be. Very first live stream I've done from DWM, maybe it caused some kind of slight latency issue. Maybe things are just a hair out of sync. But a lot of times when people tell me, like, hey man, your audio's out of sync, and I go back and watch it, it looks fine to me. I think some of it is on your end when a lot of people tell me this. It also depends on how you're watching it. Are you actually watching it in YouTube? Or are you using some of these other, like, YouTube download programs that download it and stream it in VLC or whatever. That might have something to do with it too. Yeah, why conch when you can just run Python? Visual Studio Code is amazing. Wow. You know, I haven't used Visual Studio Code, so I'll let that one go. Derek, are there any window managers you really dislike? I can think of one that I hated. The Lumina desktop environment that TrueOS uses. Garbage. Straight garbage. But standalone window managers that I really disliked, when I did the obscure window manager project, I did not like TWM, which was Tom's window manager. That's really obscure and it's old as hell. Nobody uses it. There's a reason. It's ancient too. I didn't like that one. I also did not, you know, there's FVWM that was also a really kind of strange beast to configure. I didn't care for that one really either. Wouldn't say I hated it, but I wouldn't use it. Yeah, everybody's saying the audio is in sync. Okay. I know it was in sync on Qtile and on i3 on the same machine. So if it's out of sync for some reason, then it's got something to do with DWM, but everybody seems to say it's good. So probably just that particular viewer, however he's viewing this video. Yeah, the sync is fine. Yeah, McGay, do you use Vim? Yes. I typically use Vim. On most of my installs, I also installed Genie. So Genie is here as well. I launched Genie. There's Genie. Genie, I think, was actually already installed on Manjaro i3, but I like Genie too. I don't mind having a GUI text editor on the system if it happens to have one. I'm not going to delete it off the system, you know, just to save a couple of megabytes of drive space. Actually, I think Manjaro i3 also has mousepad on the system. I never use mousepad. I probably should delete that one. I think they also had gvim installed, or I might have installed gvim. I don't use gvim though. Yeah, Big Pod. I don't know a thing in Python. I don't really, I mean, I know enough Python to be dangerous, but somebody mentioned conch. You know, well, we're in Bash right now, right? So I've played around in conch for like, seriously, 30 seconds, but we're in Bash. Can Bash do this? 1 + 1. And actually give me an answer. No, it can't. Let's switch over to conch. 1 +, well, if I can type 1. Oh, it returns 2. So, I don't hate that. I mean, the fact that, you know, I can do calculations in the shell. So, oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So, of course, everybody's going to give me the bash command. But I didn't have to do any kind of weird formatting, you know. 1 + 1. That's all I had to do. Let me catch up with the chat, and then I'm probably going to shut this down since we've been going for a little while here. Been going for about an hour and a half. I just want to give you guys a little bit of a update about DWM. I'm actually shocked at how comfortable I am in DWM. It's like, this is not foreign to me at all. It's strange how comfortable DWM. I just fit right in with it. Like, completely different than when I switched to i3. i3 was a very foreign experience. DWM, very comfortable in. So, let me try to catch up on the chat before I go here. If you got anything to say, say it now, guys. Oh, and do you post videos on DTube or any free services as well? I don't currently. I should, though. I'm trying to save all my videos as far as, on a storage here locally, and then I'm eventually going to put them on a website somewhere. Because they do need to be somewhere other than YouTube. Because who knows, YouTube could go away one day, I'd lose all my videos. You guys would lose all my videos, those of you that find this stuff useful, so I do need to put them somewhere else. Yeah, DT, because I don't know Python, I made a program in C# that generates Python code, just print, to make OpenBox pipe menus. Really? Yeah, that's neat. By the way, the OpenBox pipe menus, yeah, you can code them in anything. Most people do them in Python, but you can use Perl, you could use C#, you could probably even use Haskell, if you knew Haskell. So you can do those pipe menus in OpenBox and whatever you want to do them in, I think. Most anything, anyway. I know for sure Python and Perl both work. Of course, Bash scripting also works. Have you tried NeoVim? I have not. Thinking of giving OpenBox a try. Seems funny to customize. Check out my videos. I've got several videos on customizing OpenBox. It's a little work to it, but it's not that difficult. I've got some videos where I really kind of talk you through it. Do you use tmux or screen? If you're asking me, no, I don't, because I'm already using a tiling window manager. Doesn't make much sense to use tmux or screen, which basically tiles you inside the terminal, right? It's a terminal multiplexer, which means it tiles inside the terminal itself. It starts splitting up your terminal windows. Since I'm already on a tiling window manager, I just open up another terminal and tile away. So I'm not saying you can't use tmux or screen if you use the tiling window managers, but probably most people that use the tiling window manager probably don't use tmux or screen. Let's see, Reddit and Unix porn search for OpenBox. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. You find, matter of fact, Unix porn, 90% of everybody that posts on that subreddit, Unix porn, they post screenshots of i3. But you know what? The other 10% are mostly OpenBox. So that's not a bad suggestion. Yeah, Nano's not bad. GNU/Nano, since it's a GNU utility. So, yeah, Nano's nice. Has anyone tried to use fish as a shell? No. I'm sure it's a okay shell. Not POSIX compliant though, so a lot of your bash scripts may not work. That's kind of a deal breaker. DT, you ever need any help with server stuff? I just ask. I do server stuff as part of work. I will. Yeah, DT loves DWM as a window manager in his OS. I've been on DWM for 2 days, Carl. I could hate it by day 3. McGay, I love Haskell, but it's hard for me to understand it. I can't understand it at all, so. Yeah, I've been recently porting some OpenBox pipe menus to JWM. I did the same thing. I rewrote all my OpenBox pipe menus so they would work in JWM when I did the JWM Obscure Window Manager project. Matter of fact, I think I even uploaded some of those pipe menus that I rewrote for JWM. I think they're on my GitLab page. Yeah, sadly, C# doesn't work as far as I have tested. It appears it outputs in a different way than Python. Yep, Miguel, I uninstalled tmux after I moved to i3. Yep, why do you dislike fish? No, that wasn't to me. Yeah, I haven't used fish, so I'm sure it's alright, though. What's your favorite window manager that you've used? My favorite all time, just because of how customizable and just rather cool it is. So cool that I always come back to it. Every few months, I always end up back in OpenBox, at least for a few weeks. OpenBox is really nice. If you like a floating window manager. If you prefer tiling, I really like Xmonad. I gotta be honest. Xmonad's not gonna be for everybody though, but I really like it. Yeah, you can still run a bash script from Fish with bash. Fish is fun. A lot of fish. If fish didn't exist, I would use ZSH though. I'm sure they're all good. And of course, window manager suggestions, Xmonad, Spectre, awesome. All good, I'm sure. Spectre I don't know anything about. I really haven't tried, like, of the 12 obscure window managers I tried, plus 2 that I didn't try, BSP, WM, and DWM that I've played around with a little. So 14 window managers, really, that I've tried on the channel. You know, obscure window managers. These, I didn't hate any of them, other than TWM, which is basically a dead project anyways, ancient and just garbage. But discounting that one, of the ones that people still commonly use, they've all been great. I could use any of them. I could have lived in Fluxbox, IceWM, Herbs Luft. I could live in any of them. So, yeah, I used to run FreeNAS, but I swapped it for Ubuntu server with ZFS. Ah, cool, because it's more familiar. Switched to Linux about a year ago. i3 on Void. Nice. Void Linux is a really interesting project. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought up Void, because if I'm using all the suckless utilities, right? DWM and ST and dmenu and surf. And because of that philosophy, this keep it simple, stupid, this minimal, ultra minimal philosophy. You know what the best thing to install something like DWM and all the suckless utilities would be? A distro like Void Linux. That really would be like a perfect marriage. All of these suckless tools on a distro like Void Linux. Because they really share the same philosophy. Just throwing that out there. So, you guys that are running Void are looking for a neat little project, install DWM. And ST and Surf and all the rest of it. I use a Samba share on Ubuntu with ZFH. I have some Windows stuff, so I have to use Samba, yeah. Never played around with Samba because I don't have any Windows machines. You can do pseudo tiling with OpenBox. Yeah, was that addressed to me? I think it was, yeah. Yeah, I'm aware of that. As a matter of fact, if you check out some of my OpenBox videos, you'll see some of what I do with my tiling in OpenBox. Yeah, some of you are talking about CMUS, the music player. That's another thing. Patching this panel in DWM, I could. There is a way of editing my auto start bash script. You guys remember how I added the clock in that bash script? I think I could have added some kind of bash scripting, a few lines that would have given me the output of CMUS in that panel. I didn't play with it though. What I really wanted was, I wanted the dang time on the panel. It was very strange having a desktop with no clock on it. You would be surprised when you remove the clock. Like, I never even thought about how often I look at the clock on my computer. Until I didn't have one. I found myself like every 2 minutes looking up, at that panel for what time is it? And there's no time there. And it started like really affecting my mind. Like, okay, I got to get the clock. Yeah, the ultra bloatless setup would be something like Void with MUSL. Absolutely. That's why I was going there. Void with a tiling window manager like DWM and the simple terminal. ST, yep. Absolutely. It really does seem like that those projects, they share the same philosophy. So if that's something that matters to you, I don't care about the suckless philosophy of keeping everything so simple. I think they take it to an extreme that most of us are a little uncomfortable with. DWM, for a tiling window manager, DWM has been around forever. And even in the early days when I started using Linux, DWM was not a popular tiling window manager. Let me see when it was created. the first release. Let's see if I go to Wikipedia, maybe. The first release was in 2006. I think the first release of Xmonad was in 2008. Awesome Window Manager popped up right around the same time. And when I first got into Linux, the two most popular tiling window managers were Awesome and Xmonad. By far. Nobody used DWM back then. And nothing has changed, in the last 15 years, since 2006 when DWM, 13 years or whatever. It's never seen any kind of real adoption. Why? Because of that suckless philosophy, having to patch it and compile, and you would think people that use tiling window managers are the right kind of people for something like that. Most of them are developers. Most of them have some programming experience. Most of them like building their own system, but a lot of them can't be bothered with something like DWM. Yeah, let's see. I use MPV for audio. Yep. Is Ubuntu your preferred distro? I'm not sure who you're asking that to. Ubuntu's a fine distro. If you guys like Ubuntu, though, I would recommend stick to the LTS releases. That's just throwing that out there. You stick to the LTS. They tend to be very stable, rock solid stable. And then you only have to update the system every 2 years if you want to update, to the next. So you install 1804, 2004 comes out, then you update. If you're on the interim releases, you have to update every 6 months. That's kind of a pain. And unnecessary for most people. Just stick to the LTS. Carl says he'll stick to Arch. I respect that decision. Yeah, somebody mentioned Ubuntu's 10-year LTS. Yeah, they're doing 10-year support now with the LTS. I mentioned updating every 2 years because on the desktop, that's what you're going to do. The 10-year support is really for servers. If you're on the desktop, though, by the time 2004 is out, your 1804 is going to start being pretty old. A lot of packages are really old. You're going to want to go ahead and update to 2004. You're not going to run 1804 on the desktop all the way until 2028, then for the full 10 years. That's not what that 10-year support is for. The 10-year support is mainly for server customers. On Arch, you update every 45 minutes. I don't. I go 2 to 3 weeks without updating. I don't like updating every day. I think you're more likely to break a rolling release if you update every day. That's my personal opinion. If you go 2 weeks, then some of those updates that if you took when they first came out that broke, they might not break in 2 weeks because people have had time to fix them. Just throwing that out there. And some of you guys know Manjaro tries to stay 2 weeks behind Arch. Why do they do that? For that same reason. They figure 2 weeks is long enough. If something bad really happens in Arch, hopefully in 2 weeks it'll be fixed by the time it rolls out in Manjaro. Alright guys, well I'm going to go ahead and shut it down for this evening. I do appreciate you guys hanging out. There are 100 of you guys still hanging out in the chat. Wow. Really appreciate that. Let's see who all's still hanging out here. We still got Big Pod, Ben Fitzpatrick. I see you in the chat. Yep, Broccoli, Chris, iCubit, Carl, Leonardo, Michael, McGay, Mitchell, Neotac, Owen, Robson, Steven, Stewart. Appreciate you guys for hanging out this evening. Before I go, this show was made possible by Ansem, Carlos, Chris, Dylan, Leo, Rob, and Tony. They are the producers of this show. Also brought to you by all those fine ladies and gentlemen, all those names on the screen that help support this channel. They help support my work over on Patreon. You guys, if you're not already doing so, please consider supporting me over on Patreon. All right, guys. Peace.